I started out a small university in New Mexico Highlands University, which had a wonderful artist, printmaker, painter there, Elmer Schooley, who piqued my interest when I took printmaking. I knew that was it because I realized working on paper has its limitations. Working on copper and stone, I could really have fun. I always thought, okay, when I do my master's work, it'll be in printmaking.
Katherine, it is so great to see you, and we are so excited to have you and Flatbed Press coming to Baltimore for the print fair. Can you say something about yourself and tell us about the press?
Flatbed Press, I founded it with a business partner over 30 years ago. And myself, as a printmaker, and I have been teaching printmaking, found a really great love for collaborating with artists. And since 1989, we've been creating prints in our studio and creating editions, monotypes, woodcuts. Recently, we've added lithographs to our studio here in Austin, Texas. We recently moved to a new studio where I was able to open two studios, one for the public so that we are open on membership basis to artists who are printmakers who want to do their own work, and the other as a private studio where Flatbed Press could still do our private collaborations and publication. And then we also expanded when we moved to have a larger gallery, which I'm in right now. I'm really interested in print works that are more risky or more contemporary, and like to bring in people from out of town as well as show people who were publishing here at Flatbed. We offer workshops too.
Right. Yeah, I've been watching you online. You seem really busy.
Well, I thank goodness for my wonderful crew. I have a wonderful new lithographer, Alyssa Ebinger, who came from Tamarind, who is helping so much with the workshops and the community outreach, which we felt was imperative at this time to keep people interested and knowledgeable about printmaking. And then I have a wonderful printer, Richie Pena, who has been apprenticing under me for collaboration with Intaglio. So we have a really nice balance, and I don't think I could do it without them for sure.
And are you the curator of the gallery?
Yes, yes. My husband helps too, so he's a big part of the crew as well. He's probably the best preparator I've ever had, and you'll see him in Baltimore, Mike Brimberry. He hangs everything. Richie Pena is also stepping up to do some of the curating with me, and I'm looking forward to teaching him a little more about that.
Well, of course, I'm a curator, so that's the fun part to me, although I love getting my hands dirty in the shop.
Well, it's really creative, isn't it? I love doing that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is fun. What's your favorite technique? Do you have one?
For me, my favorite technique is anything intaglio, and I love any kind of painterly intaglio method. I like to introduce artists I'm collaborating with to doing sugar lift with aquatint. And recently, I'm working with an artist right now with a soft ground, although I do it a little differently than some people. I like using it much in the same way you would use an aquatint. And so I like anything that you can build on, take away, add to with intaglio. I treat it kind of like you would do a painting, I think.
One of my good friends, True Ludwig, who you've I'm sure met, always says, "Where there's metal, there's hope."
That's my motto. Where there's, I always say to artists as they're starting here and they don't like what we've done on that plate, I say, well, if there's copper, there's hope. You just go on, right?
Can you help us understand sugar lift?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And I've tried lots of solutions, but mainly you are using some sort of ink that's got a lot of sugar in it, like a syrup, really. And the way I like to do it is I apply it to an empty or a blank plate, a clean copper plate with a brush. Paint it on, a brush stroke can be painted on with this sugar solution. It dries onto the copper, and then we cover the whole copper with some sort of asphaltum resist that covers up all the open areas in the copper, and it goes over the sugar. When it's put, after it's dried, When it's put into hot water and agitated just a little bit, that sugar comes loose from the copper only wherever you painted it, and it leaves open areas which look like brushstrokes. Those brushstrokes can be etched after we add aqua tint to the plate, and that causes the acid to etch the brushstrokes and makes divots in the copper, depending on how long I leave it in the acid, that will hold ink in different amounts to make different values of gray in that brushstroke only. So that was one of the first techniques I ever learned when I was in graduate school that I thought was the most exciting way to work with copper.
Well, you're not alone. There's a set of really wonderful Matisse heads that are all sugar lift. They're
Mm,
very thickly painted, outline, very simple. But
mhm.
when you look so closely at I mean, they really look like brushstrokes. And if you're not familiar with spit bite and sugar lift and all those, you're like, how did they do that?
Right. Isn't etching supposed to be a line? No.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about you and your background and your training.
I started out at a small university in New Mexico Highlands University, which had a wonderful artist, printmaker, painter there, Elmer Schooley, who piqued my interest when I took printmaking. I knew that was it because I realized working on paper has its limitations. Working on copper and stone, I could really have fun. I always thought, okay, when I do my master's work, it'll be in printmaking. And I was lucky enough to go to a graduate school at New Mexico State University where Spencer Fiddler, who had studied with Mauricio Lazansky, was just starting. He was right out of graduate school, and I learned an incredible amount from him. So when I moved to Austin, I started teaching printmaking, which is really the best thing to do if you want to collaborate with an artist, is you learn how to be a teacher. You can ascertain where the student needs to go and what they're doing. And I did teach for about 15 years at the university level at Austin Community College and Texas State University and St. Edward's University. But I started Flatbed in 1989. That's where it came together when I did collaboration. Of course, I'm an artist too, but it's interesting because collaborating with an artist to me feels almost as creative as doing my own work. I can mesh myself, I think, with what the artist is thinking or their concepts, and I find a great deal of satisfaction as I'm able to find a way for them to go forward with some sort of printmaking method.
Yeah, I find both curating and I can imagine being the collaborative end of the printmaking part completely creative. I'm always surprised when people are like, "Well, so you don't do your own work?" I'm like, "Well, I am
You
in
are.
my own way."
Yes, yes, I know.
And the other thing I wanted to circle back to was your professor that you got excited about printmaking through. Going back to Lazansky, I have this theory that all printmakers go back to Hayter.
Yes, and he would go back to Hater too. Yes, they do. Isn't that incredible? Yeah.
Yeah, this is aside from the fact, but when I was working on that show that never came about, we were designing a family tree so that Katherine
Uh-huh,
Brimberry would have an H, what, two or three,
uh-huh.
because you went to somebody who went to Lazansky who went to Hayter.
He would be my great grandpa, right? My
That's
great
right.
grandpa. Yeah.
All right. So tell me what you're excited about bringing to Baltimore.
Oh my. We've done a lot of work during the pandemic, so which is was really fun to be able to come to the shop. So I worked with quite a few artists. One artist that we worked with this last year is Lance Letcher. He lives in Austin. He did his graduate work in printmaking, but left it for the last nearly 25 years to work doing collage, and he's really well known in Austin for these intricate horror vacui collages. I love them, but I also love the work that I remember he did 30 years ago in printmaking. And he started doing some drawings in his off time, apart from his collages. And I had invited him to the shop, and he said, "Well, I'd like to try a print." And lo and behold, after the first one, which we ended up doing, I think we've done 7 so far with him because he can't stop. Printmaking is pretty addictive, but the work we're doing in print is very colorful and it's gestural, and it's not like his collages. So a lot of people are looking at collage and looking at what he's doing, and I'm saying look beyond the collage and look at how he's building his collages, the what's underneath it, what drives it, and you're going to see where he's going with his prints. So they're kind of like taking the collages and just melting them down to the substance of what's there. And I'm really excited to show people what he's done at the fair. I may be bringing some of the ones behind you, I'm hoping to, by Marcy Sanchez, who worked during COVID time, who does a lot of monotype. She's never interested in doing editions, and these are all mono prints truly behind us. They are carved styrene stencils that are printed one on top of each other. So those will be fun. I've worked with Jay Sullivan, who does almost Zen type of etchings that build up three-dimensional forms that were imaged from rocks, and then we've etched them into copper. Oh gosh, we have
Those Adrian Armstrong portraits were
Rain.
really great.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned him because I'm excited about bringing those. That's a soft ground etching with Shinkolay patterns that he created. And so what he did was he set up a soft ground, he did the drawing, which is a way, in case people aren't familiar with it, you draw on a piece of paper over the copper that has a sticky resist. When you peel off the paper, everywhere you've drawn is open to the acid. He draws almost exclusively with a ballpoint pen, which is perfect for doing soft ground. So he did this large portrait, and when we went to edition it, he wanted to do patterns that would be in different parts of it. He spent about 3 days creating monotypes patterns onto Asian paper, making just these wonderful pattern samples that he could cut out the shapes that went on there. So there was no way, and we weren't interested in doing an edition that they were all alike. So with him, he started curating every print. He wanted this pattern with this pattern in this color. We inked up the copper plate and did a relief roll over the surface so that we got multiple 2 layerings of color, and Shinkolade, which put in the patterns into the shirt. He has a t-shirt on, he has a jacket over that, and these wonderful sunglasses, the portrait does. And yeah, he's a joy to work with. And right now, he's our artist in residence. So we offered him an artist in residency, and he's working on litho stones, and making patterns that he can Shinkolay into those. It'll be a lot of fun to bring his work to Baltimore.
I think I saw that the Met maybe acquired one of them, or the MoMA.
If the MoMA did, I don't know. It was the library, the New York Public Library.
That's who it was. Yeah, the New York Public
Acquired it.
Library. So exciting.
Yeah, I am too. I was so excited. We did a varied edition of 16, so I think we have about 9 or 10 left. People really respond to them. And they're kind of hard to choose which one you want, though. That's the only problem because they're all good.
That's great.
Yeah.
So one of my last questions, well, I probably have two. If artists are interested in collaborating and publishing with you, how are you open to cold calls, or how do you choose?
That's a hard and question because, yes, we're open to cold calls. A lot of times when they come here, people have work that they want to do. I like to talk to them about what they want to do. I'm really not interested in working with artists who want to come and reproduce something they've already done. I'm interested in working with artists who want an adventure of creating work with us. So I want to find that out, what their objective is. I want to know a little bit about how they like to draw. A lot of times I'm attracted to someone's work and I'll give them a call and see if they're interested. But I don't know all the people out there who I don't know. And so I welcome the cold calls. And I have a price structure set up for doing contract printing that we can discount it based on how many prints they get and we get. So I'm able to work with lots of different people on lots of different levels where they can keep more of the prints or less of the prints, or we can co-publish. And I think that the more different kinds of artists styles or ways of working we can work with, the more we're going to grow too and be challenged by other artists. Basically, that's what happens. Sometimes I go after people, sometimes they fall in my lap, and I'm grateful for all.
I had the honor of meeting Miguel Aragon at Madison a couple weeks ago.
We're bringing works by him too, brand new works with him. Yeah, they're on a smaller scale than the big ones that I think you might have seen. Maybe I didn't. You didn't see them. We did some
No, no,
very.
no, you brought some, which is how I knew to get in touch with him at I'm like, "Oh, you those woodcuts."
Yeah, yeah. That and one was an etching, which I love. He's on sabbatical right now, and he's on fire in sabbatical, doing all kinds of work, a lot of different places. So he was here in Austin for about a month, and during that month, we worked with him on a chiaroscuro woodcut, two chiaroscuro woodcuts actually, which are smaller than the ones that you saw, but really wonderful. And then he did a very unusual series of lithographs, not related to the heads that you've seen, that are more contemplative, and they use crochet elements from his mother who has passed, which really metaphorically map out the last years of her life, which very touching. But yeah, I love working with Miguel. He's definitely a man to watch.
Yeah, I think so too. But I'm thrilled you guys are coming. Really, Catherine, I can't thank you and Mike enough. It's going to be great to see you both.
Well, we're looking forward to it. That'll be great fun.